It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we move into a Monday. Gary, how are you?
Well, hanging in there like everybody else.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, in our pre-show meeting, we talked about nothing current event.
Right.
All right.
Right,
so,
right.
And I thought I'm going to ask him on the air about it.
Okay.
Did you get the feeling over this weekend when you would have the debate coming from the left? Now, we know that there were, number one, it was the insanity of, we saw Lawrence Tribe. No. He was a MAGA supporter. It's like, stop it.
Yeah.
And I got a buddy of mine, my buddy Dennis, who was saying his relatives were saying, no. He was a conservative. It's like, and I'm like, Dennis, mellow out.
Yeah.
Don't argue with delusional people.
Right.
Evidence does not exist at all. All the evidence goes the other way, and it bothers him. I mean, it bothers the heck out of him because it's his relatives that are doing it. But that was one of the things. But what I really noticed was, yeah, but he said this, and then the right would correct it and say, no, here's what he said. Howard Kurtz brought up the fact that he said some. What was the word he used to inflammatory things, where he was talking about, and obviously I understood exactly what Charlie Kirk was talking about,
right?
When he was saying, that when you have freedoms, there are people that will take advantage of it. And he talked about the Second Amendment. He says, yep, the Second Amendment's there. And yeah, because the Second Amendment is there, some people die.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I, everybody listening right now knows exactly what he meant by that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That there are freedoms and liberties that we all have.
Right.
If, for example, the government said nobody can drive,
right,
well, then nobody's going to drive, by driving. That's not a controversial statement.
Right.
It's something that in a society we know that when you have rights and freedoms, that there are bad things that are going to happen because of that. That's not inflammatory.
There are acceptable risks in our society. In any free society, there are going to be what we call acceptable risks. We know one of the leading causes of death amongst teenagers is car crashes.
Yeah.
Yet we let our kids drive.
Well, we're willing.
When they're teenagers.
Well, now this may be viewed as controversial. We're willing to allow a lot of young people and a ton of other people to die by allowing people to drink alcohol.
Yes, we always talked about it with the cars thing, with automotive crashes and deaths related to crashes. We brought it up and said, okay, let's fast forward to 2025, right? Let's say, or whatever year back then that we talked about it, we started talking about it years ago. But current day, we're still riding horses. Let's say a Kyler Ford, because his name wouldn't be Henry, it'd be more modern name, Kyler, probably.
Kyler Ford.
Yeah, Kyler,
At least it wasn't Lance.
Or Trevor or something. Anyway.
Not Lance Ford.
Right. It would be a more modern name. But let's say an inventor came up with this brand new way of transportation. And you suggest it, and you say to Congress, but tens of thousands of people every year will die as a result of the use of this. You'd probably have a modern-day RFK Jr. and a number of people come up and say, no, we're not allowing this.
Ralph Nader would team up with
exactly.
RFK
Yeah,
Jr.
well, that's perfect pairing right there. If you don't know the history of Ralph Nader, just Google it. But it is what we call the acceptable risks. We talked a lot about this during COVID because what the left in their big control phase, which was pretty much every day except the first few days of COVID, what they were trying to do was tell you that no, there are no acceptable risks. Well, with most accidents happening in the home, geez, get out of your house. I mean, we talk about a number of things in a free society
Right.
that are dangerous to us an extent that we measured that risk. And during COVID, all of us critical thinkers were saying, look, we've measured the risks of what we now know, which, by the way, was pretty early on. All right, first couple of weeks we didn't, and then all of a sudden there was data that was coming out, and then as we started to learn more and more, we said, well, wait a minute. We can measure these risks. We know for the elderly. You know what? I know this during flu season of every season, long before COVID. Be careful when I go see my elderly parents or relatives or friends. And all of these things, again, fall into these acceptable risks in a free society. And the left can't really have that because they lose power. If you take acceptable risks and are okay with that, then they lose control of you. They thought this is a great opportunity, COVID, a great opportunity to come in and grab control. They didn't buy the science, Gavin Newsom, hanging out with his buddies, and some of whom were doctors at that table, wearing no mask, having dinner, yucking it up, drinking wine and everything else, hanging out with Magic Johnson at a game at one point, probably, you could argue, one of the most high-profile HIV patients in the world, not wearing a mask. They didn't buy the science. What they bought was the opportunity for control. And they don't like this idea that in a free society, whether it's Second Amendment related or anything else, that we do have a certain amount of acceptable risks. Not that see, by the way, this is what was twisted in the whole thing with Charlie in the comments on the Second Amendment. That's not endorsing that he accepts and is or condones those deaths.
No, wants it.
And wants those deaths. Right. The accept part of it is, again, all right, it's acceptable in a free society that we have the freedoms which outweigh the risks that come with that.
Right.
And what is on each and every one of us that changes that, and that is the word responsibility. What responsibility we take.
Before we get into that discussion, because that's a great discussion, my point was, and I'm not just going after Howard Kurtz, which, by the way, was his last show at Fox. It was his last show.
Oh, it was actually his last show.
Was his last show at Fox.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I never heard he was leaving, or did I? Maybe I forgot that. Okay. All right.
I didn't either until yesterday when they said, because the comments were, well, thank goodness it's his last show, and I went, they letting him go because of that?
Well,
and it was like, no. Yeah. It was just his last show.
Okay.
They've changed a bunch of the weekend shows at Fox.
All right.
But it was the point that, and I didn't hear anybody bring this up yet, but you heard so much talk, but he said this, as if everybody was trying to find what was the not everybody, that the left and other commentators were trying to find the acceptable thing of what he said to justify his assassination. That's what I got out of it. It was like this search for, but he said this.
Right.
And?
Right. In other words, put part of the blame on him.
Right. That he said this, so naturally, that's the next step would be assassination.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there over the weekend going, my God, somebody's got to call these people out and say what they're doing is they're trying to put this out into the public. Yeah, but do you know he said this, and then he said this, and then he said this. Now, probably about 90% of what I saw over the weekend, the claims that what he said He didn't say, and then like Howard Kurtz took it completely and totally out of context. I didn't know that he was that, should we say, moron, idiot, imbecile on it.
Yeah.
Because that was plain stupid when he said that. Because anybody understands, as you just said, freedoms versus risk. That was the point he was trying to make.
Well, Charlie knew, like any critical thinker, that there is a risk in going out into the public, by the way, every day, whether it's at a rally or not, whether you're a Charlie Kirk or not. You might be a Ukrainian refugee coming home from your pizza job, just getting on a train. We understand that there are risks out there. That doesn't mean we want those things to happen.
But as a society, you do accept those things happening, because if you don't accept it, then you have the only other choice is to get rid of the freedom.
Yes. To become completely withdrawn and become a total hermit. If you're in your mind, you're going to just say, okay, I'm not going to take any of these risks. I'm just going to stay in this room all the time.
I disagree. I don't think living my life would be the other side of that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. I was thinking of
when you said
eccentric people. Oh wait, that also includes you. Dang it.
When you said hermit, that's why I said,
right.
That's why I thought, oh, okay, I can
get out more than I do.
I can turn this around on him.
Right.
You know, I might be lately getting out more than you.
No, I think you've always gotten out more than me.
But so I mean, I thought that over the weekend. I'm like, are they trying to find? Well, we're trying to. Come on, we got to find the acceptable thing. We got to find the most disgusting thing that we believe he said.
It back,
right.
That can tie it back to him and put this on him.
Right. Even if it's a lie, we need to keep throwing it out there to try to convince the public that there is some thing that would be acceptable to assassinate somebody if they said these particular words.
Well, these are the morons. By the way, I got an email from Clearly a Liberal. You know, when last week we played the audio cut of Charlie, it was a very sweet moment of him talking on I forget what show he was on. But he was talking about, he said, you know, I have the greatest wife in the world, and he was talking about his happiness, and those that were hosting on that show, you know, were kind of enjoying that moment and accepting that and the whole thing. And I said, after the audio cut that we played, I said, well, in that moment, I would have debated Charlie because I have the greatest wife. It was, again, a lighthearted moment. I get this liberal that writes me, when do you plan on debating Charlie about having the greatest wife? Well, number one, I'll assume you weren't listening closely, and you should probably listen more closely. Otherwise, you won't make idiotic comments. See, if you listen more closely, right, then you can get everything that I said. Otherwise, you end up making idiotic comments. Otherwise, you're just a complete idiot, and you're taking it out of context and trying to, again, go at us. It's weak. You and I have been doing this for decades, and it just gets weaker by the moment. Liberals just get, again, more stupider by the moment. And this is their desperation, really, in the serious tone here, what comes through in these moments, what they can't really wrap their head around today in 2025, these radicals, is joy. They can't wrap their head around joy, around someone leading a happy life. I've been asking for a while, do these people ever smile? What is going on with them? Where's this anger, this rage? Where does it come from? Number one, it comes from not valuing life from the beginning, but also from that, they grow into these people that just experience no joy. When you value life and everyone around you, regardless of who those people are, you experience joy. And when you believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, as I do, as Charlie did, that joy comes at a special level that you can only experience through that. That's my belief. You don't have to share that belief, but I do believe, and I think this analysis is spot on, I think that they just cannot stand people being happy in their lives.
When we talked about last week about gratitude, about, all the research shows that what brings people happiness is gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, what do you have gratitude for? Life itself,
right?
The opportunity for freedom, not being given something,
right?
But the opportunity. We had talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the whole thing came out again about, well, is the American dream is gone? It's not gone.
Right?
What are you talking about?
Right.
Well, it's about having a white picket fence and no, it wasn't. That was never the American dream for me, ever.
No.
The American dream for me was never about stuff.
Right.
It wasn't about gathering stuff. It was about taking the opportunities that exist because we live in a free society that has been fought for, and understand that there are people that died, their lives have been destroyed, their minds have been destroyed, they sacrificed so I can experience the opportunity of freedom. Well, I'm grateful for that. I'll always be grateful for that. It's not about stuff.
No, it never has been for
And
me.
as soon as the premise is wrong, well, it's about stuff, and it's about stuff, and it's about stuff. Well, if it's about stuff for you, then you're never going to be joyful.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Inspect your radiator, belts, and hoses for potential failures and deterioration, especially ahead of winter. Check the condition of your coolant to ensure it's at the optimum freeze point. Inadequate freeze protection levels can result in cracking of lines or passages. If you find insufficient freeze point levels or any wear and tear, have these issues repaired by technicians you can trust.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, here's the audio cut from Howard Kurtz, okay?
Right.
Just in case you didn't hear it. Here we go. Okay.
Charlie Kirk was not a saint. He said 2 years ago, it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so we can have the Second Amendment. But his murder makes us feel like a very dangerous time.
The separation from reason in that moment is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, you and I aren't the ones that say, well, he should be fired. Good thing but quite frankly, he hasn't earned, he's not smart enough to be an analyst in any media. If you're going to say something like that, if you don't understand.
Well, he's not gone because.
I know that.
Okay.
I know
just
that.
make sure.
But a lot of people were saying,
Right.
well, I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad he's that last, we're not the ones that jump on that. But quite frankly, you're not smart enough to even earn a place at the table if you're going to go that, or you're a complete liar and you're doing it to throw it at Charlie, which I'll leave both of those options on the table. Which is sickening, but you know what? We've seen a lot of sickening things happen in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Maybe one of the dumbest things that Howard Kurtz ever said.
It has to be right up there. Yeah.
Not a saint. Well, what did he say? We accept risks for freedom.
Doesn't make him pro-murder.
Right.
Wow.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. When any tragedy happens, I've learned in life that when tragedies happen, bad comes out of it and good comes out of it. We'll first hit the good, not hurt the good. We'll hit the good, and that was the response you saw over the weekend. NFL stadiums, see that?
Yeah.
You had many come out, even in Hollywood, and come out and say this isn't acceptable at all. This, and how many times? I mean, I think Jay Leno came out and said this is an attack on free speech. Last week we talked about the polling that has been taken. The especially last April of last year, the number of liberals, the percentage of liberals that thought it was justifiable to kill Trump or Elon Musk, which blew a lot of people's minds. We did it on Friday's show. Right. We also did it when it happened in April, and the good was everything that we saw. Did we talk about this? I think we talked about it last week, but also I was in a group text with some of my buddies over the weekend, and we also got talking about it. And, we were asked the question, is this the scariest time that you have, felt domestically as a talk show host? And my response was twofold. Number one, what you're seeing, I'm not shocked, and I said this last week, I'm not shocked that this happened. I believe it was inevitable. And I believe it was inevitable because of the intensity and the volume that is coming from the left. You can't say Nazi, 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 Nazi all the time without it having an effect. You can't. You can't sit there and say that these people that I don't like would kill millions of people.
And that's what they're promoting.
If they could.
Trying to get done. That's what you're implying when you call someone a Nazi or when you call a leader, including Trump or other Republicans, Hitler.
I was reading a psychotherapist in the Wall Street Journal, Jonathan Alpert, who said, well, I've heard, from the right, too, calling people groomers. But they are.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
You to sit there and say, again, the question is, does the label at all relate to the behavior?
Right.
And if it does, yeah, because he also said, I've heard the right sit there and call people traitors. Well, if you look at what happened, in the Russia collusion hoax, you can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
There was an attempt, as we know, to overturn and then destroy a presidential election, not in a riot like January 6th, if you're trying to make that argument, but in a concerted effort that went on for years.
Yep.
When people come out and said people who did that, they're traitors, it may not fit the legal definition, but you can understand. And when you say, well, you're trying to usurp democracy, well, to throw that at Trump because of what's going on in Washington, D.C., by putting the National Guard troops in order to stop crime, which he has the constitutional authority to do so, is a completely different animal than the Russia collusion hoax that went on for years, that was all based on a lie and created by Hillary Clinton and the DNC to take down Trump and the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So it's whether it fits at all. It's like the Howard Kurtz thing. Because the Howard Kurtz thing is, by saying that he wasn't a saint because Kirk wasn't a saint because he brought up risk versus freedom.
Right.
And he said, I want the freedom with the risk, because that was the message he's putting out, and saying that wasn't a saint and that was a horrible thing to say. None of that makes sense at all. It doesn't fit. What he said doesn't fit at all.
Right.
When you look at the censoring that was attempted by the left inside the Trump administration from the FBI and everything else, that was unprecedented in American history. We've never seen anything like that.
And look at all the levels of power, the people in power at the time that had to make that happen.
And that was an attack on free speech because the government and the bureaucrats in the government were involved in that with the private companies doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that happened and people said, well, these people are traitors, they're trying to get rid, they're trying to censor the truth. Federal government officials are trying to censor the truth of private corporations, and they're in there influencing it and lying and doing everything they possibly can. You can understand that because it's unprecedented in American history.
Yeah.
When you say, as President Trump has, we're going to obey the law that the elected officials passed who are representatives of the citizens of the United States, we're going to enforce the law of Congress instead of not abiding by the law of Congress, and we're going to enforce our borders, and you're called a fascist for that. The definition, the label, doesn't fit the behavior at all.
No.
And so that's why we attacked it last week when it said, well, both sides have to break. No. You've got to go point by point
What's
by point. What's
based in the truth and what is not.
Right.
It really is that simple. And, it doesn't require an excelled level of critical thinking to get to that conclusion. We're talking about the truth versus lies. And people are smart enough to tell the truth versus the lies, what's based in the truth, what isn't, from the beginning. And which, again, that's what makes Howard Kurtz's comment so idiotic. He clearly had a disdain for either Charlie Kirk or people like him or some people on the right. And that is how you say something so thoughtless. Keep in mind, they don't, those shows, even if they're on just on the weekend, and his was, they don't just happen. Or if you write something, articles at foxnews.com, I don't know if he's still going to be doing that. Those things go through a series of, changes before they air. Even if it's just a thought in his mind that he wants to bring up. He just decides he's going to say something idiotic. I don't know. I have no idea where it comes from. Is it for the sake of being devil's advocate here? Is it what is your attempt?
Well,
why do you need to come out and criticize Charlie Kirk on something that doesn't apply at all?
Because your effort is not to look for the truth, but I need to be balanced in a particular way. You don't need to be balanced. All you need to do is tell the truth.
Yeah.
Just tell the truth. But if you're worried about, am I going to make sure that I please both sides in this one? I don't care. When you and I criticize the Republican Party, I'm not looking for balance. If they do something that's wrong, they do something that's wrong. If we disagree with Trump, we'll tell you we disagree with Trump. We're not saying, well, we never do this. Well, the Democrats did this, but Trump did that. Or Trump did this yesterday. But then again, the Democrats, we look at each instance as an individual, act, and we judge it on its merits and the truthfulness of that particular point. And that's not happening. But when I look at, the horrendous assassination, and it's tough not to let the responses of these people on the left, everything from teachers to business people to students or whatever, in their, I guess, pro-assassination comments. But I'm not surprised what happened, and I'm not surprised by their response. If you know history, history is full of brainwashed or partially brainwashed, maybe a lot more brainwashed societies than the United States is with the left right now.
And if you know recent history, you know what's been going on. Right. You see it with Luigi Mangione. You see it with the story in Axios. You had 9 lawmakers, 8 of whom were so afraid they wouldn't even give their names to Axios, saying their constituents were out for blood.
But the bright spot is...
Democrats, by the way.
But the bright spot is because this was asked direct, I said, I was actually, where the country's going to go from this point on. I was actually a lot more worried in the summer and fall of 2020 into 2021 when the brainwashing went through every major corporation, every major sports league, to the point, you and I said, I've never seen anything like that in my life. The brainwashing that was going on from Black Lives Matter, the fact that the Democratic Party did not give a damn about the rioting in the streets, that the COVID lockdown, everything there. As a society, I was a lot more worried back then. I am uplifted by the reaction of so many people and so many young people who are looking at this. You're not going to change the minds of the delusional. They're going to stick to it no matter what, the brainwashed, delusional people that exist out there. But there is a groundswell of young people, and there is when I just watching the NFL and how many moments of silence there was, and on X there was a lot. Listen to this when the moment of silence, complete dead silence in these stadiums.
Yeah.
To me, I look at that and say, I'm a lot more optimistic. Not that I thought the Republic was going to fall in 2020, but I've never seen that impact of intimidation and how corporations and sports leagues and everybody else just crumbled to the delusion of the left. Now you've got people fighting back.
I think probably in part because of that, because of how that fell. That fire caught so fast then.
Yeah.
It was bound to burn out. What was reassuring is as it was crumbling, we could see people using their critical thinking skills and applying them accordingly. And as that support for those radicals just fell, what we saw was evidence of people doing their own homework to find the truth.
And the number of sports people coming out.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I'll tell you one thing here's one thing that surprised me a little bit. The number of people, the number of pro-assassination people out there that were completely and totally shocked that they were fired from their jobs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the one from Microsoft, and there were a couple of others, and they were like, "What? Huh?" That's the employer, not the government, punishing you.
Oh yeah, there's no free speech issue there. It's like, well, the cancel culture. Well, if I guarantee if we get on the air and start talking about somebody who was murdered and they deserved it, I'm glad they got it, I doubt we'd be here the next day.
Right.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. You know what I found interesting is Lindy Lee over the weekend. Some of her comments. For people who don't know, Lindy Lee was a fundraiser for the Democrats and quit last summer and then quit being a Democrat. But she raised tens of millions of dollars for the Democrats over the year, now completely rejects Democrats.
Right.
It's always interesting because, you know, we've talked about actor, comedian Michael Rappaport, that the people that the people that reject the Democratic Party are some of the most furious that you'll see at the Democratic Party. And this is Lindy Lee talking about are the two sides the same? All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
If the roles had been reversed, we would have had Antifa 2.0. Cities would be on fire. They burned down my street 5 years ago. They would have done that. And they're the ones accusing conservatives of hate. They're the ones whose words have turned into bullets. They're the ones why a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old no longer have their daddy. How do you explain that to a child? That their father is no longer going to come home because somebody happened to disagree with what he was saying. It's just completely incomprehensible to me, and conservatives from around the world, and it's not just the United States, we see in the United Kingdom as well, across Europe, across the globe, people are coming together in prayer, not pitchforks. And that is a fundamental difference between the left and conservatives.
That's Lindy Lee, her entire life a Democrat until last year.
Yeah.
Now, here she is this is interesting about lying. And she wrote this here. And this was really about the whole Karine Jean-Pierre thing, which we'll get into here in a little bit, where she says, I have no idea. I don't know who wrote my talking points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cheap fakes. I don't know where it came from.
I don't know.
I just don't know. I don't know when she testified last week in front of Comer's committee. But here's Lindy Lee. She wrote this. Democrats are now lying about the political ideology of Charlie Kirk's murderer. They continue to lie about their Biden conspiracy. They downplay the murder of the Ukrainian refugee. They are rudderless and dishonest and have forfeited, the American people's trust. Here's more what she had to say over the weekend.
Every single one of them told us to lie. They sent us talking points saying, Biden's at the top of his game. He's running circles. He's a genius, but it's behind closed doors. You just can't see it. And what's my source? Trust me, bro. Every single one of them said that. So frankly, I'm not surprised that almost all of them pleaded the fifth rather than tell the American people the truth. It's been a year and they are still just dissembling and lying to the American people. And that is why their approval rating remains at 19%. And I think that's a very generous assessment right now. They still refuse to admit to their own complicity and guilt in this.
You know, that's the other thing, too. When you look at, and we've talked about this, we've talked about lying. We've talked about when you look at things that happen out there, what are we debating? I go, one of the reasons that we can't, when I became a talk show host, wow, a full 36 years ago, 2.5 weeks from now, when I became a talk show host in 89, you actually debated the issues. We don't now. We're fact checkers.
Yeah.
I mean, we debate that. I mean, we get into the minutia and explain all the issues to you. But really, when you look at whether it's, X and what's going on in social media, it's fact checking.
Yeah, that's actually the first thing you have to do is get through and find the truth so you can debate the issue.
Yeah.
Something we've, in fact, what has changed our line of work over the years the most, and that is the fact-checking that you have to do in order to get to the point of having the debate. And the left doesn't want to have the debate. They need the lies to continue because, quite frankly, they really need it to be cumbersome to get to the truth because the truth defeats their argument.
Well, I think that's another difference. I'm not saying that the right at times doesn't lie, but they don't. Conservatives don't on the issues.
Yeah.
Where we stand on the issues, we don't feel we need to lie.
Well, in fact, most frustrating at times for us is if somebody on the right lies and it's an unnecessary lie that doesn't where you don't need to lie.
How many times have we said that?
You don't need to lie.
Right. Conservatives,
the truth is on your side.
Right. Conservatives never need to lie.
And I think it bears repeating here, by the way, something I said recently, because when you see the back and forth and everything else, it's the same basis as, well, there's two sides to every story. Actually, there's only one side, the truth. There's only one side. So, when people say, well, when we were talking about Howard Kurtz, they feel that need to, Howard, I don't know if Howard Kurtz felt that in that moment, but some people, the fair and balanced and blah, blah, blah. I don't need you to be fair or balanced or anything. I need you to be honest.
Right, because if you're dishonest in the effort to be fair and balanced, you're not fair and balanced.
In fact, you're both unfair and unbalanced.
Jonathan Turley wrote this about Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe, who's just, he's just a complete nutcase. It remains impressive how liberals can spread disinformation with impunity while supporting censorship in the name of combating disinformation. Lawrence Tribe's claim that Kirk's shooter was MAGA takes disinformation to a new delusional level.
Yeah.
But, as I was telling you with my buddy Dennis the other day, with his relatives, he's just like, he goes, they keep insisting that he was a conservative. And it's like, you need to calm down. You need to not argue. You're not, when people live in a delusional mindset, it's impossible to debate with them because if they're delusional, they're telling a lie. The only thing you can tell them is you're lying and then move on.
Yeah.
But here it is, a distinguished Harvard law professor, a distinguished Harvard law professor and legal scholar was hammered on social media after spreading a debunked rumor that the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination was ultra MAGA. And that Republicans were trying to blame liberals for the tragedy. Lawrence Tribe made the comment in a post on X that shared a lengthy post from the account called Occupy Democrats, which attempted to paint a picture of suspect Tyler Robinson's political ideology. Kirk's, quote, Kirk's apparent assassin seems to have been ultra MAGA, exploding the GOP MAGA attempt to pin the blame for this tragedy on liberals, wrote Tribe. Robinson, 22, is in a romantic relationship with a transgender partner. Senior-level FBI officials confirmed to Fox News Digital. The official said Robinson lived with an unnamed person who was a male transitioning to a female, and that they shared an apartment. And then you heard the story also, the different stories that I've seen over the last few hours, that they hated conservatives.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated conservatives.
Right. But his own family members said that he had become more vocal about it in recent years.
Yeah.
His own family members were talking about that.
And it was a family member of the transgender, too. Said
right.
that
right.
The hatred of conservatives was just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when you live, I think there's two things. I think there's a sense in liberals. There's a sense of hopelessness because they've been told they're a victim in every way and they don't have control of their own life.
Yeah. They've been indoctrinated and programmed that to the nth, to a point of, and I'm with you when it comes to Lindy Lee or anybody who just kind of recently had that awakening, especially somebody like her that was in the heart of the operations of the DNC. Didn't see it, how they didn't see it earlier. I would have a lot of questions for her. But those that are waking up to that, you see that it's this new awakening, realizing I've been lied to all this time, or these people are far too radical. I can't be involved with them any longer. I can't support them any longer. Those, again, it is that indoctrination does rob these individuals of, quite frankly, a happy life. Once they buy into it, and they're partially to blame for that, if they're not going to do their own homework and live in this delusional state, then there isn't going to be any happiness. There isn't going to be, and they're going to be angrier and angrier as time goes on.
And when you think about it, because I've read a bunch of psychotherapists, whatever, analyzing this over the weekend. How do we get to the assassination culture? And I think they're explaining it I don't think they're explaining it the right way. I really believe that you and I've talked about this for decades, the victim-oppressor relationship. You and I remember when Occupy Wall Street was done. The only thing that came out of it was the banks are bad and the banks need to pay off your college loans.
Yeah.
And you and I both remember Bernie Sanders telling young people, you can't make it because the billionaires are the reason that you can't make it in your life. The young girls that were at the White House, was it Obama or was it? No, because it had to be during Biden. During Biden, the climate change, the brainwashed children that were asked, what are you going to do when you go to college and what are you going to do for your career? They said, we're not going to have a career. We're not going to be around. The world's going to be gone by the time, we don't worry about college. We don't worry about our careers. There won't be a career. We're not going to be here. All the Democrats sell young people is hopelessness. You're a victim. Your life is not under your control. Well, when you do that and then you say that the other side is Hitler and are Nazis, you don't expect a certain kind of delusional, insane rage to follow? You have no control of your own life. You've been brainwashed since the time you've been children over and over again. You've been told things that are completely and totally false, the radical transgender movement, among other things. And then the other side, you're the victim, and the oppressor is somebody who was a Nazi who would kill you or enslave you at any time. You've already been brainwashed to the point that you don't believe you have any control of your life.
Yeah.
That you're a complete victim. Well, when you think that way, I think it's totally, completely open for you to buy into totally other delusional concepts that are being thrown at you day in and day out. And that's got to build. Can you imagine going through life completely hopeless?
No.
You're going to be full of rage and anger.
And it's going to continue to get worse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that for anybody.
And so there you had. And we talked about Charlie Kirk being young. You know, he is one of them. He was one of them. He was young. He started this at 18. Yeah. He was going to college campuses when he was their age. Mm-hmm. And they went, oh, I can make it. He can make it. Oh, here's a message of positivity. Here's a message of hope. Yeah. Here's a different message we're being thrown. Let's listen to this. That's why he was so dangerous to the left.
Right.
And his message is still, it will be more dangerous to the left as we continue on. Because most likely, his assassination will bring forth thousands of more Charlie Kirks.
And ironically, he started Turning Point in 2012, right midpoint of the Obama 8-year tenure.
Yep.
And went out and actually taught young people about true hope and change.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1, concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2, more revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company. But there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3, all you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4, you can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, I just saw it. Didn't even know it. The Emmys were last night.
Yeah. If those who don't know, the Emmys are an award show for television and I guess now streaming too. So that's part of television because people. What's interesting is remember when the TV producers were, well, that shouldn't be the case. Not streaming. It's like, well, nobody's watching TV anymore, so kind of has to be streaming too.
Well, with Colbert holding up his award and people cheering around him. And it's like
it means something.
It was a day of celebration for Colbert.
Oh,
and I'm like,
validation. Okay, right. Your show is still losing
I'll just say
tens of millions of dollars a year.
reminded me of a circle something. I just,
Yeah.
but I just
Well, how about you
watching.
How about you hold up the earnings statements from your show for the last 5 years?
I mean, but it's like, but
Be proud of that.
But they think it's like, okay, now I've got validation.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
You don't.
I don't validation.
You don't. We've always said, when there's been this, well, I'm going to, from Hollywood, I'm going to boycott the Oscars or whatever award show. And it's like, well, look, the awards come from the people, especially in Hollywood in the box office. When you've got #1 movies, that's kind of the validation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's validation.
Yeah. And, Stephen Colbert, his show is losing tens of millions of dollars because not enough people are interested.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Then to get back to last week, you saw where the New York Times had to back off. The New York Times told millions of readers that Charlie Kirk was anti-Semitic, and then quietly they offered this correction that only a handful of readers see. The correction was made on September 11th. An earlier version of this article described incorrectly an anti-Semitic statement that Charlie Kirk had made on an episode of his podcast. He was quoting a statement from a post on social media and went on to criticize it. It was not his own statement.
These things, and when it comes to the truth of these items, the truth is not hard to find, and they know that. It was by design that it ended up that they called him anti-Semitic. It was by design. They knew the truth because it's too easy to find out. Because the first concern would be getting burned. Actually, it's not on the left.
No, they don't care. They're political activists. They're not
If you were
journalists.
a journalist, you'd be concerned about getting it wrong. They don't care about getting it wrong. That's why they are okay with lying. Lying, of course, is going to be inaccurate. That's what lying means. It's going to be false, and there's going to be motive behind the lie, and it's to paint him as anti-Semitic, which was ridiculous.
I've said a couple of times, I'm not surprised by what happened. It's something that you and I have we've talked about, the brainwashing of young people by the left for a significant period of time now. So don't be surprised when you have a generation, number one, that's been lied to over and over and over and over and over again and told. And I want to focus on this again because I think it's really, really important to focus in on this because it's something that you and I have talked about before. And I think one of the perfect examples, and we mentioned it already here in the last hour, but the young women that were at the White House at one time for climate change, and they were asked about their futures. What do you want to do in the future to make the world better? And they said, we're not going to have a future. We're not going to be here.
Yeah.
So they've been told the world's going to end. They've been told life doesn't matter. They've been told through all the messages their life doesn't matter because they can't make it. They're victims. They have no way of making it unless you elect me to office.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to help you, which they don't. You see that if you live in so many Democratic cities, they don't care about the crime.
No, they don't care about the law-abiding citizens who are victims
Right.
of those crimes.
Right. They don't, and you come to the conclusion that your life doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Life doesn't matter. They're the ones pushing it. Remember, we're not just talking about abortion here.
Right.
Remember, this goes back to 2008.
Yep.
That's why we always pointed it out. What's his name? I got a mind blank here. Oh, at Berkeley. Said we're going to, his health care plan, Robert Reich.
Robert Reich, yeah.
My health care plan, if I'm honest with the American people, we got to let old people die.
Yeah.
That was his health care plan.
Right.
And it's just like, my God, you've got to be no caring for life, no caring at the beginning, no caring at the end. And when you don't care about life, and then you tell young people they're not going to live to be adults, when you actually convince them that climate change is going to kill them. So forget about you have no goals. When you're told, sorry, you can't make it because billionaires have destroyed your life. And by the way, the opposition to us are all Nazis and Hitlers. When you have a hopeless generation of young people who feel they're never going to be able to live a life because they're a victim, and even the people that they vote for keep promising them a better life, but it never comes. Are you surprised that they're full of anger and rage? And that they've been brainwashed to a point where they're full of anger and rage and they're willing to buy anything that you sell them, including the fact that, hey, we don't have to tell them directly, just tell them they can't make it. Just tell them their life is hopeless. Just tell them they'll never grow up to be an adult. Just tell them that the opposition wants to enslave them and murder them like the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And we're amazed that we've got angry, delusional young people out there.
I would say because they say the truth hurts. Actually, it's not the truth that hurts. It's finding out that you're wrong about the truth that hurts. And when you're heavily indoctrinated and or have for years heavily invested into an ideology or set of ideas and you're proven wrong, then that's going to hurt. That's a gut punch. And the anger too, as you mentioned, the other part of that builds that anger is the building of the victim in each of these individuals. The left needs you to believe you're a victim. It's not just identity politics based in race and ethnic background. Everything.
Thank you. I forgot to add identity politics into it.
Because identity politics is really the creation of the victim. It is most often the overwhelming majority of time based in ethnicity and background, gender, whatever you want to say, non-gender, whatever you want to say. But it really is not even the point. The point is to build as many victims as you can to make sure that everyone believes they're a victim for some reason.
Right. Well, you make a victim, tell everybody they're a victim. You tell minorities they're never going to make it because they're minorities.
Right.
You tell whites, young white students, well, you're a racist. You need to apologize for the sins of your father.
And if you buy into that, you believe you're responsible and that you're horrible.
Yeah.
And for the other side, because this is the essence of critical race theory, that if you're a minority, you're always going to be oppressed and there's nothing you can do to overcome it. Then you live in a place of hopelessness. That's what they need you to do.
And you judge people by groups because identity politics, you don't look at people as individuals. You look at them as groups.
Yeah.
Because you're told not to judge a person by their individuality. You're told identity politics is what matters. We judge this group this way, this group this way. And this is the amazing thing, because I've heard all these, psychotherapists out there over the week. Well, this. Hey, idiots, the environment in which you grow up in can affect how you turn out as an adult.
Yeah.
The messages that you receive from the time that you're young in schools all the way up through. I'm not surprised that you've got so many young people, number one, justifying murder, and number two, being completely clueless and emotional when they get fired. Why? I thought, I
thought I was a hero.
I thought I'm doing this is virtue signaling.
It's what we're supposed to do.
We didn't kill a human being, or I say we because they agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't kill a human being. We're slowly killing the group that is destroying us.
Right. That's what I've been taught.
That's how that's why they're so shocked that they've been fired.
Right.
You're like, well, this is the way we think. Why my job is gone?
Right.
Because that's how they've been raised.
Right.
That's what they've been taught in their schools.
Yes.
That's what their parents taught them. That's what their teachers taught them. That's what the community that they were in taught them. You're a victim. You're a victim. You're never going to be able to make it. And if you're a minority, you doubly can't make it. And if you're not a minority, you're to blame for all the suffering.
Right.
And we wonder why. They don't look at people as individuals. They look at people as part of a group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why they will say they're Nazis.
Right. Well,
you got
Brian Thompson was evil because he was a healthcare CEO.
Right. He was part of a group. He wasn't a human being. He was a CEO of a healthcare company that you've been told is evil.
Right. Not a person, not a father or two, not a husband. Part of a group that's part of the evil.
Right.
That's what they want you to believe.
You got Jamel Hill out there. You saw her that, he's a white supremacist or white supremacist because she took him completely out of context and what he said about DEI.
Yeah.
And she's out there saying as well. And so people don't do their own homework. And that's why I think we played Lindy Lee earlier. We played Michael Rappaport many, many times before. That's why they're so angry. They're so angry because they just wouldn't believe, because that's the hardest part. You said it, Eric. The hardest part when you've been told you're a victim and the other side is Hitler is to finally wake up one day and admit you've been a sucker and bought into all those lies.
Right.
And then you become enraged because you say, these people were so friendly to me. They were, I thought they cared about me. And you realize they were just attempting to manipulate you.
Right.
That's why
the truth isn't the part of it that hurts. Finding out you're wrong in such a deep way in terms of your beliefs,
and the difference
is
between
what hurts.
And the difference between conservatives and liberals when they're trying to say, well, it apply, it's equal both ways.
Oh yeah,
is conservatives look at somebody else as an individual. They're an individual. You're an individual.
Right.
Conservatives believe I am the one that decides whether I make it. With all the challenges and problems out there, it still falls on me. That's not a negative. You embrace that. We talked about this last week when you were homeless in your car. Were you hopeless?
No, actually, that was part of my plan. It was, okay, here's how I can get by. I was employed. I wasn't going hungry. It was part of my plan. If I want to save money for my first apartment, which was what I was doing, this is on me because I knew one day I wanted a family. I'm going to have to learn how to do this in the way that my brain, my tiny brain and my huge head inside I don't know why there's so much extra room in there. It's how I saw it at the moment. Here I am, 19 years old. And I said, and to be clear, I didn't have the brain to go start an organization like Turning Point. My mind was, how do I save enough money for my first apartment? And that was the option. That's what I chose. I never saw myself as homeless or a victim. I had a plan. Actually, it was an interesting experience. I don't recommend it as a plan, but there was a great deal of stuff that I learned throughout that. And my heart at that point was filled with hope.
Same with me. When I lived in my small little apartment with the cockroaches and the refrigerator when I finally moved out and the fire ants coming up through the floorboards,
right.
I was the happiest SOB alive.
My wife and I talk about it.
Because I was doing what I wanted to do, even though I was making very little money to do it.
My wife and I talk about it quite often. This little tiny house that we had, that was about 950 square feet. And in the living room, we had this little space heater that had actual flames. Probably not too safe, but that was our fireplace. I mean, we think back on that with fond memories. We were never without hope, ever. Money, yeah. Hope, no.
When you create a hopeless generation by what you've taught them, don't be surprised when they're full of insane rage and anger. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't know who wrote her talking points on Biden's mental decline. Now, everybody, we don't know. We have no idea. Plus, John Fetterman, Democratic senator, says people need to stop referring to Trump as an autocrat. I think you just don't ever compare anyone to Hitler or those kind of extreme things. It's just wrong. It just isn't true. He is a product of a Democratic election. I participated in that. We lost, and the American public put us in a minority. That's democracy, and I revere a democracy. We'll have more on that and a whole bunch more on the way.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Yeah, Eric, I remember, and I think it was after the Occupy Wall Street, when Bernie Sanders was out there just, telling young people they couldn't make it because of billionaires.
Right.
Which billionaires have... Billionaires are of no consequence as to whether you make it in life or not.
Right.
Absolutely zero.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders, Occupy Wall Street, this is part of that big movement.
Yep. And then I always remember we had the student who called us from UCLA who said that.
Yeah.
That, she doesn't have time to work at all, and she needs somebody to pay for her entire college. And she can't make it because of the billionaires. And she said it, and we just shook our heads going, my God. You could just see the brainwashing.
Yeah.
And, again, no sympathy from me. I worked 2 jobs and went to college full-time. Best experience ever. You know why? I learned how to manage time.
Yeah.
Boy, was that valuable in life.
Well, when you live in your car, you learn how to manage space.
It's true.
This place is messy.
But
Pick this room up.
When I could still, when getting together with my buddies who also went to college, and I said, we all worked. We all almost worked full-time jobs. And, at times 2 jobs and went to college. I go, did we miss any party time? And they went, no, because we'd go where you were club DJing, and that was our party.
Yeah, right.
And I go, oh, that's right. That was my party. I was club DJing. Not really. I mean, you wasn't. Yeah. But though, we joked about it. But I just, and I don't think anybody who calls themselves conservatives are happy to see young people brainwashed or young people lied to or young people human beings that actually buy in to the BS that they're not in control of their life in the United States of America.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a for people like us. You guys are old school. Yeah, I got that old school thing. Freedom and opportunity.
Yeah.
And
pain in the knees.
Yeah, I got that. Well, not knees anymore.
Ankles.
Ankles.
I literally have a pain in the neck, and I've been screaming about it for years and never had it, and now I have it. That's what happens.
Yesterday morning, I really worked out over the weekend. Yesterday morning, Sunday morning, I rolled out of bed like Nick Nolte did in North Dallas 40 in the beginning of that movie.
I can't believe it's time to go play football again. Did you say that?
Oh, my God. The only thing is I don't have he had like bottles of booze and all these pills around his bed.
Yeah.
I did. And my bed is neater than he was. His bedroom looked pretty sloppy. I mean, mine's not much better, but it is better than Nick Nolte's in that
I
one.
do have medication bottles in my nightstand, but I'm probably not the same ones.
Well, and I don't think I have any beer cans next to my prescription meds.
No,
which, by the way,
not how I wash it down.
By the way, none are Schedule 1. I want to make that clear.
Well, exactly.
But it's and I really think that when you look at it, and Republicans need to talk about this more from the point of how immoral it is, because you and I said back then, I remember, because I got angry, I just said, who the hell? What kind of evil people? And I know you're not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to say evil. Oh, no, it can't be evil. Everybody's trying to do the best. No, they're not. Everybody's not trying to do what's morally right.
Yeah.
And, everybody's trying to do it morally right, so both sides need to take it down. No, they're not. When you tell young people they have no chance of making it in life, when you get them at a young age and brainwash them that men can be women if men think they can be, and then they should compete against them in sports, when you threaten, intimidate, and bully women. And by the way, I want to make this, I thought about this over the weekend. Was there one Democrat who stood up to the bullying of Ivy League women when that whole thing was taking place? Was there one? I don't remember one Democrat who said, this is reprehensible.
I can't name one.
I can't name one. Not one. The Democratic Party has mainstreamed a ton of insanity that is not based on good moral principles at all. But when I remember how angry I got that day. Who the hell sells to young people? You have these beautiful human lives that have incredible potential. And by the way, one of the reasons I get angry is I've seen too much waste of human life. And I'm not talking about in war. I'm talking about people in normal society that have been brainwashed and their lives have been destroyed because of the environment that they grew up in. And they're incredible, beautiful human beings at a young age that we should be developing and encouraging to become productive and have fulfillment and contentment in their lives. And liberals are involved in doing the opposite. You're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. And meanwhile, they have successful careers selling you that BS.
Because of who you are and your makeup, you'll never make it, or you'll always be the oppressor.
Yeah.
You'll always be an evil person or someone who will never make it.
Yeah. And then if you're a victim, don't worry. They'll turn it on you someday.
Yeah.
Which, though, is the reason they're having the problems with their favorability ratings right now.
Yeah.
But even though they are, Forget about the favorability ratings, and I know it's a small sample. Look at, and this is why, Republicans, you've got to message correctly. Because even if you message correctly, as Charlie Kirk did, they will attempt to turn it into something else every single time.
Oh, yeah.
As we've seen with Charlie Kirk over the last couple of days.
Well, because they realize the greater effort isn't with the people that have attended one of the events with Charlie Kirk there. They know they can't really reprogram those brains that have been there and witnessed that. They have to go outside of that and tell everybody else who really knows nothing about Charlie Kirk lie after lie after lie in order to shape their minds and bring about that kind of anger.
Trump, the perfect example. He believes, I won't say 100%, because there may be something that he's changed his mind in, but since the 1980s, 1990s, when he was on Oprah, the last 40 years in this country, he has been a huge public figure who has had the same beliefs back then as he has now. He hasn't changed. Democrats loved him. The same Democrats that loved him now hate him.
Yep.
He was the same on immigration.
Yep.
He was the same on economic issues. He has not changed. And Democrats loved him, adored him. I don't think there was one interview he did with a Democrat media personality where the last question wasn't, are you going to run for president someday?
Right.
He didn't change. They changed. Did they change their beliefs? Or are they just tribal? What is it? Nobody ever asked them to explain what they did back then, do they?
No.
Well, why did you support this person back then? Well, because he was different. No, he wasn't.
Nope.
And that's why in these times, just over the last couple of days, we got to break it down to the minutia again, which is what we did today and what we did on Friday. But no, it isn't an equal thing. It's not everybody needs to tone it down. It is, does the label in any way represent the behavior of what that person is involved in?
Right.
And
is it based in truth or not?
Right. And that's why we broke it down to the different issues as we did earlier in the show. Go back. If you didn't hear it, you can go back, listen to our podcast tomorrow morning when it comes to the first couple of hours. But yeah. And that's what you have to do. But no, they can't. The left can't do that.
No, because, again, the truth defeats it all. The truth defeats all of that. And this is the biggest problem they had with the mission statement of Charlie Kirk, is that he knew he was walking into Indoctrination Central, ground zero for indoctrination. He knew what he would face there, but he also knew that the truth was on his side. They can't have that on the left. They can't have that. So you need the lies. You need a lot of lies in order to make it something that it's not, which is the case for, I don't know, pretty much everything on the left these days. Tell me where the truth works for them.
Well, when you look at, Charlie Kirk, what he was promoting was, he was promoting the secular issues under the umbrella of Christianity, which means he was talking about all the issues out there, the political, secular, and I guess moral issues that exist out there, but under the umbrella of Christianity and emphasizing over and over again, because I disagree with you, I may disagree with you, but I love you. I disagree with you. I'll do anything to help you in your life. That's what I was taught through my Catholicism, through my community, through my parents, through Boy Scouts. You know, I told you about the one neighbor that last September, and I really got along with these. You know, I do get along with the neighbors. And when it got to be like August or September of last year, she put something on Facebook saying, if you're going to vote for Trump, unfriend me right now. I never want to deal with you in my basically the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm like, whoa. And so then the election, and these are people that these are people that held a 4th of July party one day in front of their house. It was almost like a block party because their part of the street was closed off. Mm. And they saw that I'd gotten home. I was in Florida visiting some friends and got back on 4th of July. And they said, Gary, come on over. Come here. And she wanted to introduce me. I guess it was a couple of her in-laws who were huge fans of ours. Mm. Now, this goes back 15 years ago. And they were just, I'll never forget my neighbors. They were looking at him. No. Do you know who he is? Do you know who he is? And I'm thinking this could be good or bad. No, but I could tell by the excitement of their voice and everything else. No. Do you know who this guy is? And it was wonderful of always when you get something like that. So obviously she knew my politics. Well, she put that sign, don't ever talk to me, whatever. And so then the election ended. And like I said, I went home that morning. The signs were all gone. She had signs all over her house and they were gone the next day. Mm-hmm. And then it was a couple of months later where my neighbor right across the street, that they used to hang out all the time. It was like January. And he had moved all the cars. He had like 3-4 cars in the driveway, so I could never see one section in front of the bushes. But he had a Trump sign there for like 4 or 5 months. And I saw him out there, and I went, wow, did you do that? And he goes, yeah, I got sick of all of her stuff. So I go, so you've been arguing? He goes, oh, yeah. I guess we still talk. Her husband was out there about a month and a half ago. And I talked to him about it.
Yeah.
I said, hey, is she okay with me? He goes, well, yeah, we love you. I go, well, I'm a conservative talk show. He goes, yeah, I know. But I said, look, here's my philosophy. You guys ever need anything, I'm there for you. That's what neighbors do. Irrespective of anything. He goes, I really, really appreciate that. That's how I was raised. You help my mother was the one that, when it snowed out and it was like, okay, we finished the driveway, Mom. Go to the neighbors or elderly. How much should we charge? Nothing. Go across the street. We did I remember that one weekend we must have done 10 driveways. She goes, that's what you do. Oh, and of course, my brother and I, why don't you get out there and do it?
Yeah.
Why do you have us out there doing it?
You're the adults here.
Yeah, you're the adult. We're just the kids. Why are you putting? But she was teaching us, that you have a responsibility to your community.
Yeah.
Which are your neighbors. And that's how I was brought up. And I that would never change me. And plus, I could never hate.
Well, this is something that the left doesn't grasp, is that your hate for me will never, ever outweigh my love for you. And that's the case with so many people that, and it's not just people in our line of work. It's everyday people. They love each other. And if that hate comes from somewhere, I may not be able to do something about that. It's not going to change the way I feel about you.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It is Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And when we Erika, when we talk about us as all of us as human beings, everybody's a work in progress. You know, it's funny because people that I know, a couple of women that I know that I've been close with for a long time. I mean, when I got to know them for a while, and they just assumed that I, at that point in my life, is how I've always been. And when I told them things I did in my life that were wrong, they were shocked and angry at me. And I went, wait a minute, I'm a work in progress too. I wasn't always like this. You know, this is decades upon decades upon decades upon decades. I have this incredible wisdom. Did you know that? You know where my incredible wisdom comes from?
Where?
My incredible mistakes.
Huge mistakes.
And doing the same stupid thing over and over again, and then finally figuring out one day, oh, this doesn't help me. Things like, for example, when I was younger, competitive to the point of being nuts, and I've talked about that. My golf game was out of control. I thought I had mental problems, seriously, because I had, as I always say, the rage of a serial killer directed at myself because I couldn't hit a ball with a stick. But I had temper problems, too competitive. Jealous.
That's hard to believe, yeah.
I was never, what, shit, I was never majorly envious or jealous, but I had problems with that. You know, early on when I was younger. I don't anymore. If I have a twinge of jealousy, I go, how stupid is that? You know, when it comes to hate, no. All those emotions only do one thing. They hurt you.
Yeah.
They hurt you. They destroy you in the long run. And that's what I learned and went, well, do I want to destroy myself? No, I want to have a happy, content life. But we're all a work in progress.
Yeah, I think so.
One 90 Red Eye. Call with your reaction. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. All right, I made an error.
Okay.
I said that my incredible wisdom comes from my incredible mistakes. No. It comes from my...
That was a mistake?
Yes.
Okay.
It comes from my incredibly stupid, wrong things that I've done. Nothing was a mistake.
Stupid choices.
Stupid choices, yes. Nothing was a mistake.
I've made a few of those.
A mistake was me in my, in I don't know what year of college it was, taking my third calculus course and getting a problem wrong. That's a mistake. Yeah, that's so.
Yeah,
I wanted
poor choices. I made a few of those when I was 8 years old. I entered into the BB gun wars of San Antonio, where it didn't really encompass all of San Antonio for all I know, but that little neighborhood that I lived in, for those listening in San Antonio, in the Adams Hill area, and Rainbow Hills, actually. And I had neighbors back then, or in that neighborhood, there was no alley between the fences, just chain link fences. Perfect for BB gun wars. And we took a few shots at each other before realizing that the injuries were getting greater. And then it was probably not a good idea, that we should just set up inanimate objects safely and practice our target shooting so that no one gets hurt, especially me.
We had slingshots and we had a war with like rocks, and there was like a house being built.
Yeah.
And cinder blocks, and we had forts, like the construction crew wasn't there.
Yeah.
And we were very sexist in how we did it, because the boys fought the war and the girls were the nurses. But we were shooting rocks. It's like kids are getting hit. My God, nobody got an eye put out, but got hit in the head with looked like Josh Allen. If you saw him yesterday getting hit in the nose, he got a bloody nose. I think his nose might be broken, but blood was just pouring out. It was just, I mean, we were in, like the guest on Dr. Johnny Fever's show one time said, children by the standard of adults are insane. And we were.
Yeah.
But when I look back, because I said this a long time ago and I'm hearing it more. And I know when I said it the first time on the radio was 93, and I was working in Rockford, Illinois. And the mayor of the town said racism is the worst problem that we have. And I said, it's completely wrong. It's jealousy and envy. I still believe that today. And you look at the horrible character traits of jealousy and envy and hate. It destroys people.
Yeah.
It makes people completely and totally unproductive, not happy. And I just, when you look at the joy, think about this. When was the last time? Forget about what the topics were. Think about the last time that you could go on a college campus and see a debate happening where there was so much joy and laughter.
It's interesting because Jerry Seinfeld, as a comedian, it was about the time Charlie Kirk was starting Turning Point USA, 2012, somewhere in there, 2012, 2013. And I remember we talked about it on our show, and I remember what studio we were in when we were talking about it. And he said, I can't do college campuses anymore. As a comedian, I can't. It's just too over the top crazy with the protesters. And I don't know of any video coming from an actual debate on a college campus where the two sides are going back and forth, but also are civil to each other and are not angry. You're not sensing any anger.
As I told you, I had that experience. It was before, 2012 hit or whenever this, when Obama got into office. And then that's when I started seeing it too. It was at that point where it was just, I'm not blaming Obama for the entire thing. I think it's cultural liberalism, which he doesn't own. He was the leader of it for a while. But when I was, as I mentioned before, when I used to do a couple of community colleges here in North Texas, and then when I did Dr. Alan Sachs's classes, his political science class at the University of Texas at Arlington, that I did probably 2002, 2003, 2004, and then I started here in 2005. I think I did it one or two times, and it just got too tough when I started working with you. Got too tough to do it during the day. But I probably did it 15 times. And I remember still doing it, thinking to myself, I can't believe we're doing this. I said, I wonder if any other instructors were there. Even back then, PC hadn't hit, wokeness hadn't hit yet at that point, like it is on college campuses today. But I remember laughing and talking all the hard issues with a smile on my face back and forth. Charlie Kirk did it when wokeness hit. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't do it, as I did in a classroom. He did it in the whole public arena where everybody could be there, including the professors. Everybody could monitor what was going on and what he did.
And by the way, to be clear, I think it bears reminding people here, or if they don't know it, to say it in this case, because like political rallies or when any political figure might make an announcement, most often the room is screened for friendlies. Charlie Kirk wasn't doing that. In fact, the whole point was for people who disagreed with him to step forward and debate him. And that's the difference, because I've heard the words political rally in relation to it, and I guess you could call it partly that, because there were plenty of people there at those turning point events that did agree with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's not like when a political figure is there, someone either running for office or in office, and they screen for friendlies. They do that for multiple reasons. Not aesthetics. They need the crowd to be enthusiastic and positive and pro whatever they're promoting. And they also do it for security.
It can't be a Jordan Peterson lecture at a Canadian college. Remember those?
Yes.
I mean, it was all. Remember the one time the people were pounding on the outside of the walls and everything else for Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
But you're right. And remember, Kirk also did. Remember, he was out there outside the DNC in the tent.
Yeah. Yep.
Remember, Vivek Ramaswamy was with them one time.
Yes. Right.
And they were taking questions right there. These were all people from the DNC.
Right.
There might have been some friendlies, but it was to talk to the people that were going in there. You got a question?
Exactly.
We'll do it.
Right.
I mean,
that's a great point, because and Ramaswamy also said, because he had been there in Chicago in February, and he said, I promised the people of Chicago I would come to their neighborhood and have more discussions, and I'm here during the convention, during the Democratic National Convention. I'm here again, and I'm going to do the same. And again, that's the difference. You're walking into a great unknown. I guess what is known is that you're going to encounter people who highly disagree with you. And they chose to do that. It was the whole point for Charlie Kirk to do that. I think it was the approach of Ramaswamy to do the same. Look, I know that, you don't support the Republican Party, may not support me, but let's have a discussion. Let's just have a back and forth together. And that shouldn't be such a foreign idea, but the reason the radical left fears it is because exposure of the truth. If any of those eyes are actually opened at any point and unindoctrinated, if that's the correct word, then that becomes a problem. That exposes, in fact, crumbles to the ground their very basis and their entire agenda.
When I did it with the young people, there's a few times in my life where I've had incredible adrenaline highs. I mean, incredible. We do this every single day, and not that there aren't the great moments, but when you're there live with people, there are some things where the adrenaline rush is just unbelievable. One was when I succeeded for a few times in doing stand-up comedy. When you kill it, when you're doing stand-up, it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. Now, when you bomb, you realize that the loudest sound on the entire planet is silence.
Yeah. Or when you think you're killing it and you realize the guy that's coming up next after you is actually behind you and is a prop comic and is opening all of his props, which are funny, just by showing them to the audience. And you're thinking, like I was, oh, I'm crushing it here. And then I realize he's standing behind me with all these insane props that he's using. That's also a mixed feeling, a mix of the two.
I never had that. When I did it, luckily I was always solo for some reason. Yeah. So it was, for me, it was good. I never had to be in. Well, no, it wasn't. The time I bombed wasn't, but there was nobody behind me. Mm-hmm. They were
typically
coming out
there wouldn't be, but I was about to introduce him, so that's why he was coming out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. You were
the
MC, but you still got to be a stand-up.
No, I had to do material.
Yeah, you had to do material. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't going to settle for. And the next person is
the other time was, of course, when I went up with the Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm.
The other time was when I crashed at Texas Motor Speedway, and flipped like 5 times, and then continued, we continued after the other driver looked at me, gave me the thumbs up. I gave him the thumbs up. We went back like, you want to go? Can you still race? And I did, and I had a flat tire, so I crawled over the finish line. And it was a Thursday night there with just at Texas Motor Speedway. The one section, with the pits is where you're running the legend cars.
Yeah.
It was like 30, 40,000 people. They're going crazy, all cheering. That was an adrenaline rush. It was also the last time I ever drove a race car because I went, I'm done. I don't need to die doing this.
The last time I got on a bull, which was also the first time I got on a bull.
Yeah.
I knew at that point, my buddy Eddie says, all right, let's go again. And I said, unless you mean to the hospital, the answer is no.
Yeah, and then the other times we're doing Dr. Sax's classes.
Yeah.
I'd walk out there with an adrenaline rush like you couldn't believe. It was great. I mean, it was great to be able to debate, and everybody walked out of there smiling, laughing. And I didn't get out of there maybe till Dr. Sachs would leave. There'd be a line of kids wanting to talk and ask me questions. Mm-hmm. It was great. It's exactly, and that's why, number one, Charlie was a radio talk show host. We mentioned it the other day, worked for Salem. Our condolences go to all the people that we know that work over at Salem. But it was not doing what he did exactly, but still talking to college kids about politics and kids that disagreed with you, politics, economics, whatever, and doing it in a way where everybody went away smiling, laughing, communicating. There's something so wonderful and right now so American about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we'll get to that Karine Jean-Pierre story coming up here. Just like the headline. Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't know who wrote her talking points on Biden's mental decline. I have no idea. I just read what's put in front of me.
I just waited in a small room all by myself, and they came in and handed me a book and said, go.
Why do you think I was always, she may have a point. Why do you think I was always flipping through the binder? I had no idea what the answer, who wrote the answer, and what it was going to be.
Wow. It's a lot worse than we ever thought it was.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Erika Kirk talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. Welcome and good morning. Hey, did you know your Cowboys won?
I saw that headline.
Yeah.
They came back from a pretty deep deficit, and it was in overtime, right? 40-37, am I right?
They beat those powerful New York Giants.
Yeah, right. You know. It's, listen, the road to the Super Bowl has to start somewhere. Now, this isn't the road to the Super Bowl. It's just one win. I'm just saying that generally speaking. I'm not trying to say it applies to the Cowboys. But, if you can, if you can make a comeback and also not get spit on, that's a good day, right?
I don't think there was any spitting in the NFL yesterday.
No. Yeah.
All right, in other news, You got to love this story.
Yeah.
Former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre could not say specifically who provided the talking points she used to deflect concerns about former President Joe Biden's mental acuity.
Okay, what?
She testified before the House Oversight Committee on Friday and could not recall who fed her the Biden administration's talking points about online cheap fakes being used to undermine him. A person familiar with the interview told National Review.
Okay, there are two things here.
Can I just finish
Go
one
ahead.
more sentence?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
She said cheap fakes were a talking point put into her binder, but she doesn't know specifically who put them in her binder.
Okay.
I had to do that because...
Which means she doesn't even know if those were cheap fakes. If the cheap fake comments were cheap fakes. All right. Two schools of thought. Number one, really? Really? You're going to go with that? But also, okay, hold on a second. I'll back up. Because another possibility is, well, it is Karine Jean-Pierre. and my point here is she never really seemed deeply connected with Otto Penn or whoever was running the White House at the time. And I mean that. She didn't seem like she had a real connection with Biden or anybody in charge at the White House. And so to that point, it's, I'm not going to go full on believable. I'll just say it's plausible, possible, because, again, I never felt she was deeply connected to Biden. I never felt she was deeply rooted in that job. And the binder was the key probably to my assessment. You should never. Now, there are certain times when you got to come out and you got to read a statement directly from the president. And you have to get that right. But for the most part, you don't need to look down at the binder. If you're doing that job, you shouldn't have to.
Well, that's how I do the show. I have a binder, and I come in here, and people just put things in the binder, and I automatically believe whatever's in the binder, even though I don't know who put it in. And I never ask questions. Who put this in the binder? How do you know this? Where does this come from? I asked no questions about what was in the binder. I just assumed whoever put it in was telling me the truth.
See, that's my initial response for her, with a really comment. But again, when I say to myself, well, it is Karine Jean-Pierre, I just get this feeling that nobody really ever talked to her. that she wasn't deeply connected in the way that you should be in that role.
She said cheap fakes were a talking point put into her binder, but she does not know who specifically put them in there. Various advisors entered talking points for her binder, but the ones about Biden's mental capacity were handled by senior officials. Well, you didn't talk to anybody?
Well, see, that's the difference. That's to my point of not needing the binder. You shouldn't need the binder unless you're reading a direct statement from the president.
Right.
You need to get it right. You don't need the binder, and the reason you don't need the binder is because you're in constant contact with everybody.
Right.
Every other hour of the day that you're not in front of the press.
You know what she's trying to do? She's trying to CYA.
Oh, yeah.
I just didn't know. I don't know who put it in. I don't know. How do you prove an I don't know? That's the thing. She knows she's safe under oath saying I don't know, because how do you prove
that
I don't know?
Get away with legally.
Yeah. And
I don't recall.
But she's trying to make us believe that she would walk out there and there was stuff in the binder that she hadn't pre-read and asked questions about.
Right.
That she sat there, someone said, hey, Because here's how it would work, and we all know this is how it would work. The senior advisors are in there saying, here's what we want to talk about today. Here, Karine, here.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
And then
and it starts very early in the morning.
Then she puts it in the binder.
Yeah.
She's making it sound like the binder is in some room and people just put stuff in the binder.
Well,
she grabs it and then goes on stage and reads it. Goes not on stage, out to the podium. You know.
Again, it's none of it makes sense until you introduce, it is Karine Jean-Pierre. But I think it really is a combination of both. Because I believe they had conversation after conversation after conversation, and she wasn't able to grasp it, and so she needed the binder.
Remember, though, oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with him, she told Don Lemon. That's another reason I don't believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Was she lying there? I want to see what the follow-ups of the committee were.
Yeah, I do too.
What were the follow-up questions?
Well, because my follow-up question would be, if somebody had just slipped into your binder, Biden believes you should vote for Trump and make America great again, would you have just blurted that out?
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why Biden put the MAGA hat on.
Exactly, right.
It was in the
Remember,
binder.
he did.
Somebody slipped it in the binder.
Yeah. Someone got in his earpiece. Hey, put the Trump hat on. Go ahead.
Elon Musk got one of his operatives to put that in the binder. Tell Biden to wear a MAGA hat.
Right, exactly. It's nonsense. It's absolutely unbelievable.
I love this here. Now a registered independent. Give me a break.
Right, yeah. You and Bernie, huh? Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm an independent. I don't own any of what I did. I'm not responsible. The binder is. And so's the auto pen. It's the auto pen in the binder.
The binder.
They ran the White House. The auto pen put it in the binder.
And that's what happened.
No humans were involved at all.
The whole presidency was AI.
That's right. Okay, there is a movie for you.
I know.
Right.
Well, I thought about that. Well, Hollywood, pay attention.
Right.
The AI president.
The AI presidency.
Now, that'd be great.
Artificial presidency. Instead of AI, they slash out the I, they cross out the I and then put P. Artificial presidency. That's kind of what we had with Biden, though.
I like that, though. What a great movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, it'd be an update to the horrible movie Dave.
Yeah.
Because the whole presidency, you didn't replace him. You didn't get a clone like Dave.
By the way,
you used artificial intelligence to run the president. This is Biden. This is how his mind works.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, figure it out, and then blurt out what policy he will be promoting today and put the stuff in for Karine Jean-Pierre's binder.
You and I need to say something that we haven't said since we got back from vacation. But before vacation, there were a couple of things that President Trump was on, and we're like, hold on a second. Why is he saying this? He seems like a totally different person. This seems like the movie Dave, where the president who couldn't fulfill the duties was replaced by a double. And we joked about it. While we were gone, the false story that something happened to President Trump because he took a couple of days off for probably the first time in 50 years.
Yes.
I just thought, we need to clarify, we didn't start that whole thing. Although we may have started the whole thing. I just thought of that first. I thought, oh, wait a minute, what are they doing? It's like the whole Paul McCartney thing. That's not the real Paul McCartney. But it's...
What was the movie with Michael Douglas as the president, and then what's his name? Michael J. Fox was like...
I think it was All the President's Women.
Oh, that was horrible.
No, that wasn't it. What was it? What was it called?
That was horrible.
What was it, Mr. President or whatever?
Something
what,
what a horrible movie that was.
Oh.
Now, I did like the one with James Garner and what's his name? When they were when they were both ex-presidents.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you know who I liked as a president? His portrayal, actually, of a real president? William Devane as JFK. Remember that? Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah. Every time I see a picture of William Devane, I think of his role in that movie.
96, My Fellow Americans, Jack Lemmon and James Garner.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they were going to both run for president together to get stuff done. God, that was absolutely a perfect Clinton time movie.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Because at the end, because there was a whole scandal and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we both run for president? Well, who's going to be president? Who's going to be vice president? That was the big argument.
Yeah.
At the
That's what our listeners get into sometimes, jokingly, about us running. Who would be the president and vice president?
I'm the single one, so I'm vice president.
Yeah.
I just want the chicks.
Right. You're in it.
Yeah.
You're in it for the girls.
I'm in it because I want to live in Washington. And at my age, a cougar would be, again, the whole concept of cougars always seemed quite exciting to me till I realized that at my age, a cougar would be about 104.
Right.
All of a sudden,
more like a leopard because she has spots, age spots. So that's the problem, is that you don't want to go there and say something stupid like I just said. I've got my own, by the way. So, let's be clear. And more every day.
I'm having problems with that.
Yeah. What? Age spots?
No, 30-year-old women don't seem to be interested in me anymore.
helping you with your groceries to your car. That's the best you can get.
Can I help you? And I'm getting that a lot more lately. And the thing is, I call everybody, any guy out there, I'll call sir.
Yeah, I do
and
too. Yeah.
And there can be young. I get called sir, I feel insulted.
No, more and more.
It's like, what are you doing?
Don't you call me sir?
What the hell you call me sir? Call me bud.
I'm hip.
Junior. If you said junior, sport, I'd be happy with any
I
of
listened to the band Tool, then I realized they're in their 60s and actually older than me. Oh, my gosh.
I'll be golfing again and getting ticked off. God, I wish these old codgers in front of me would get moving. Come on, guys. Why did they pair me up with a bunch of old codgers? And then they start talking to each other. I turned 60 next month. I go, oh, my God, yeah. I'm older than them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the only thing is I don't worry about it because there's not a damn thing I can do.
Right.
And it's better than the alternative.
That's true.
Better than the alternative.
I still like the enlightening moment a few weeks ago when I was walking up to my truck, and I saw this other guy walking up to my truck. It's like, what does this old man want? I realized it was my reflection. Is this about to go down, old man? What's going on? You're walking up to that truck like you own it. Oh, it's me. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the age thing.
But again, to go back to an hour ago, but we have our wisdom.
Oh. If you can call it that, yeah.
We don't have our looks.
We're going to go with that.
We don't have our looks. We don't have our energy.
Right.
We don't have the physical capabilities we used to have.
We don't have a pain-free life. That's
right. But we've got wisdom.
That's right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. After reading that story about Karine Jean-Pierre saying, I don't know how this all this stuff that I was talking about Biden, it was just put into my binder. I don't know where it came from. Paul writes us and says, I'd like to know who had access to the nuclear weapons launch codes contained in the football. The football is a satchel that they carry around.
Right.
When that has the launch codes and whatever you need for that. When Joe was in cognitive decline, surely he wasn't the only one. That would be a question that they better ask.
Yeah.
You know, what precautions did they take for that?
Yep.
And
I think that's what it gets down to.
And
ultimately.
shouldn't that information be available to Congress all the time?
Yes. Absolutely.
That somebody in the chain of command, which would be members of Congress,
right?
Because it would be the speaker.
Yep.
You have to know what the protocol. I don't know what the exact protocol is. I don't know who does.
Right.
But the speaker has to, because the speaker would be third in command.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, third in the chain of command. But no, I don't know unless they just put the codes in Karine Jean-Pierre's binder.
That's a scary thought that she's walking around with them in a binder.
No, but it's a great question.
No, it's, I think it's a terrific question.
The left and media doesn't take it seriously,
right?
But we do.
Well, it really is at the heart of what we've been asking for a long time, far too long. Who was in charge? Who was making decisions? The pardons certainly are a big deal. But who was making any of the decisions as commander-in-chief?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Remember?
That's what we want to know.
What was it? Was it the Iran? Was it the attack on, was it Al-Qaeda in Iran?
It was the Iran proxies that were in Iraq. That we went after.
Right. And remember I said, Eric, I think I said it. I said,
right.
There's no way.
Right.
There's no way they explained to him all the variables of that situation, and he made a decision.
Exactly. And that was about the time in that same few weeks that Lloyd Austin was out.
Yeah.
And everything else, and you and I were like, who is in charge?
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Georgia writes us, I just wanted to say hi to you and Eric. Hello to you and Eric. I feel so sad about the death of Charlie Kirk. I can't explain it, but I feel like I'm in mourning for someone I've never met. We have lost a wonderful man. His wife and kids will be in my prayers. Well, yeah, I mean, if you didn't know of him, I can still see it if you've seen the stories of his life and his wife and his family. If you saw his wife the other night, have those words. It's tough. It's tough when it's tough to watch anybody, even if you don't know them, talk about losing their husband.
I don't know that kind of strength. I've seen it many times. I don't know that I've certainly never been in the situation that she has. But the strength of Erika the other night, and my wife was playing, we were kind of watching it on the go, and she was watching it. And it's just this admirable strength in knowing, and she mentioned it, Erika mentioned it, having to explain to two very young children. One of the things, too, is that because they're very young, over the years, and likely all of their lives, they're going to have questions about it. And Mom, Erika, in this case, is going to be the one that has to be there with those answers, if she has the answers. She may not have every answer, but she's going to be there for them. You know, you and I talked off the air last week. In the wake of the death of Patton Oswalt's wife, it was. I never met Patton Oswalt or his wife, didn't know either of them, but it was heartbreaking to me to learn that story about her death. But then beyond that, later he talked about in one of his specials, it may have been the first one that he did after her death, but he talked about having to tell their daughter and break the news to her. And it's my heart breaks over and over again in those situations. And again, that strength is admirable, inspiring, as so many of us grieve. And you and I, again, we didn't know Charlie. But we know of the mission statement. We know of the tragic assassination. We know the thoughts behind the hatred towards Charlie. You and I deal with that on a day-to-day basis. But when you see that, when you see the words and hear the words of Erika, the fact that she was speaking publicly so soon was just mind-boggling to me, and tells you, again, what kind of a very strong person she is.
Just so people know, Patton Oswalt is the actor-comedian who is as far left liberal as you can get.
Yes.
Yeah, just so people know.
It was, that's an important point, because I don't have to agree with him. I don't have to know him intimately for my heart to break for him. When Beau Biden died.
Yeah. We talked about it on the air.
It was such a heartbreak because it's true. It's been said, I don't know how many times over the years, but no parent should outlive their children. And I grieved heavily for the Bidens.
Well, he died from, glioblastoma is a horrible disease to die from.
Right.
And
it was,
it's horrible.
I think, again, this is us as a society. We do grieve, even if we don't know that person. We grieve, even if we know of the person and may not agree with them. The overwhelming majority of us feel that sense of loss, and we have that empathy for those closest to these individuals. And that's something that I like to focus on, and I think everyone should remember.
Well, I know for Charlie Kirk, it hit both of us hard. You and I are, he was at the beginning of his mission, of his career, of what he wished to do. He was at the very, very beginning. I said, my first thought was when I saw the video, and I saw the close-up video first, and I went, I didn't think he'd survive it.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, my God, he's a kid. Not in an insulting way, but,
so young.
So incredibly young. And, when I saw he was 31, I go, that's it. I go, oh my gosh, he started when he was 18. But doing this now in the business for 43 years, talk since 1989. I've been in talk since 89. I was a station manager of a talk station, though, before that, though. So I've been in the business even longer than that. So I was around for the infancy of modern talk radio. Charlie Kirk also worked for Salem, a competitor of ours, but we know a lot of people over there. We respect them as broadcasters, and they're in the same business that we are. And one of the things that you and I have talked about before is that, and this all happened in 2016 where you had some talk show host quit and say, it just got too rough, it got too rough, it got too rough. Anything I'd say, I'd be criticized. And you and I just went, well, what the hell business you think you're in? This is the arena of ideas, and there's a couple of things that you accept, and there's a couple of things that you thrive on. And you and I have talked about it and put it this way. Most people run from the fire. They run from the political fire. They don't want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. They may listen to it, but to be actively involved in it every single day is tough. If you don't want to do it, you've got to make the decision. And it's not a decision that the majority of people make. And it's, I'm going to run into the fire every single day. And as talk show hosts, you have to accept that half the people are going to like you and half the people are going to hate you. Mm-hmm. It's tough when you first deal it. You've got to grow a thick skin. But you go from saying, I'm going to deal with it, to then you embrace it, and then you thrive on it, and then your adrenaline, and you know as well as I do, Eric, we talk about this, because I know you react the same way. We're at home, and we see the story, and we're like, we cannot wait to get into work. You don't sit there and say, oh, I got to talk about this. There's going to be people that disagree with me. You run to the fire. You run right into it because it's what you love doing. It's what you learn to love. And Charlie Kirk learned that at such a young age. You and I look at some of the young ones, because we had talked about this probably, 10, 15 years ago. We said, who are the new people going to come up and talk radio? Where are they being developed or whatever? I mean,
right.
where are the, and again, you're seeing podcasters and influencers and things like that. I mean, the business has expanded that way. But, when we look at someone like, Ben Shapiro, who's a lot younger from us, we're like, yeah. We saw Charlie Kirk, yeah. And then we see some that are influencers that are like, okay, we're just going to agree with whatever the guy that we like. And we're like, okay, he doesn't do what we do, but we understand why they do it. Mm-hmm. Charlie Kirk did a number of things out there, but he went into the fire every single day. And he first didn't go into the fire doing talk radio. He did it Turning Point USA. I'm gonna form an organization, and then I'm gonna go out to colleges, and I'm gonna go into the belly of the beast. And he didn't do it in a way that was being afraid. He wanted to go into the fire. How many times have I heard quotes from people, and I didn't know him, but I've seen the quotes of people that knew him, saying he just loved his job. He loved doing it. He loved doing it. There's a camaraderie that's built with all of us. And there's also, I know for me personally, remembering the death of Alan Berg in Denver, who was assassinated by white supremacists. And he was assassinated in the driveway of his townhouse. I was just entering my second stint in radio back then in 84 when that happened. I was in for a year. I'll never forget that. And I always remember going, okay, now talk radio was in its infancy at that point. It didn't really blow up until, 89, 90, 90, after Rush went national in 88. Mm-hmm. You had some local talk show hosts. When did Rush get in? I think 85. I think he got in local.
I think it was around then, yeah.
85, something like that. So it was in its, that was in its infancy, and Alan Berg had been around working at in Denver. And so from what I know, this is only the second assassination of a radio talk show host since 84. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a brotherhood and a sisterhood of people that do this. There really is. I won't speak for you, but I think I will. I think I can. We take this personally. This is an attack on freedom of speech. It's an attack on our business, but it's not the death of anything. I saw Jay Leno here's the headline, Jay Leno calls Charlie Kirk assassination the death of free speech. No, it's not.
No, it isn't. No.
Not at all.
No.
It reinforces in our mind, it re-energizes us like nothing else could re-energize you.
And I'm hopeful, I pray that it also re-energizes or energizes maybe for the first time people that are now in the age group that Charlie was when he started Turning Point.
Yeah. The wonderful
even if they're not going to do it to that extent, that they just won't be afraid to have a debate, a conversation, and won't be afraid to stand on their own convictions. We'll just start there.
And that's the thing, and I'll just use Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk as the examples. They're the ones that got in so young and went to the college campuses. We couldn't do it.
Right.
By the time they came in, you were in your 50s, I was in my 60s. Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys are old.
Yeah.
And we were really impressed by both Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and said they really, not that we agreed with them all the time, but and I hate even saying that, but you have to. Because people think, you agree with them 100%. I don't agree with anybody 100%.
They're not me, I'm not them, and
right.
That's a given.
Right. But generally, in the way that we wish to see the world and things like freedom of speech.
We want the same thing.
Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the United States. It's probably close to 100% with all of them.
Yep.
And that's what we want promoted. And so, we take it personally, but
it's deeply personal because of my convictions are deeply personal.
Yes.
And there is nothing that will change that.
This is the one business. I've always said, the job isn't who you are. It's what you do. It eventually gets to when you do this every day because you tell people what you think.
You have to basically be who you are.
Yes.
I think you have to be the person you are.
Right.
In order to espouse those convictions and have people believe it, that has to be who you actually are.
It is one of the businesses that it becomes who you are.
Yeah, because more and more you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And so it's unique in that way. So there is a great brotherhood and sisterhood in this business, and it is heartbreaking. But for people that didn't know him and you learn about him, I can also see you getting that personal attachment to him.
Oh, certainly.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app. Why? Because our show ends in an hour, and if you miss part of it, you can catch it then, because all we do is we record the show. It becomes our podcast on our Red Eye Radio app, and you listen. It's that easy.
We're always here for you.
Yep. And if for some reason you can't listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, for whatever reason, we stream all 5 hours live also on our Red Eye Radio app.
And thank you for listening.
An exclusive presentation of Red Eye Radio.
That's right. Rebroadcast of this show is strictly prohibited by the NFL. We think.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.